You would think there are no holidays in space, but that couldn't be further from the truth. In this video, Halloween on the International Space Station, the giant space pumpkin, NASA explains what made the sun smile days before Halloween, Beaver blood moon is the last chance to see a total lunar eclipse until 2025, and more. Stick around to make sure you don't miss out. Let's get to it. Starting with Halloween on the International Space Station. The idea of hearing a knock at the door while you're at the International Space Station sounds an awful lot like the beginning of a horror movie, and as far as we know, no such things have happened yet. But that doesn't mean that the crew members of the orbiting facility don't celebrate Halloween while they're up in space. In fact, they rather enjoy being creative with it, while some even prepare for a holiday by bringing along some proper Halloween costumes. During Expedition 21, flight engineer NASA astronaut Nicole P. Stott managed to turn bright orange fabric aboard the space station into a proper ball gown, and neatly carved a jack-o'-lantern into a recently delivered orange. Italian Space Agency astronaut Lucas S. Parmitano finally got to live out his dream of being Superman during Expedition 37, complete with the Superman suit. NASA astronaut Scott J. Kelly decided to take it down the creepy path with his 2015 Halloween celebration, and had taken a scary mask up into space with him during his one-year mission. Commander NASA astronaut Randolph J. Randy Bresnik thought that being a minion for Halloween would be the perfect costume during Expedition 53, and in October of 2021, three crew members NASA astronauts Thomas Marshburn, Raja Chari, Kayla S. Barron, and Thomas Maurer of the European Space Agency had some plans for when they reached the space station just before Halloween, but bad weather forced the launch to be delayed and the plans were never disclosed. Next up, giant space pumpkin. NASA explains what made the sun smile days before Halloween. Some were absolutely delighted, others feared they would get nightmares. Whatever your reaction was to the image of the clearly noticeable black patches on the sun taken by NASA's Solar Dynamic Observatory, they actually had some consequences for us here on Earth. It's easy to see why some instantly drew comparisons with the Hack-O-Lantern, especially so close to Halloween. But those patches weren't just cosmetically fun or scary to look at. When looking at them in ultraviolet light, the dark patches that become visible on the sun are actually known as coronal holes. They're regions where fast solar wind gushes out into space. And if you think that the images of the smiling sun look cute, maybe you'll reconsider when you become aware of the geomagnetic storm watch that went into effect. Researchers monitored the said coronal holes, which were anticipated to enhance and disturb the solar wind environment and lead to unsettled conditions, and thus the possibility of a minor storm. The magnetic fields that are tied to these storms have been known to wreak some havoc. Among the dangers brought about by the storm are major power blackouts, which can affect water and wastewater distribution systems, perishable food and medications, heating and air conditioning, public transportation, computer systems, fuel distribution, and basically all other electrical systems. While the worst case scenario obviously didn't end up happening, they did measure 3 solar flares and 23 coronal mass ejections. Following, Beaver blood moon is the last chance to see a total lunar eclipse until 2025. On the 8th of November, the last chance to see a total lunar eclipse will present itself, at least until 2025. This will be the second total lunar eclipse for 2022, which is quite the treat. Normally, total lunar eclipses occur approximately every 1.5 years, according to Alphonse Sterling, an astrophysicist from NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. And while we've been a bit spoiled when it comes to eclipses in 2022, November's eclipse will be the last total lunar eclipse until 2025 comes around. A total lunar eclipse only happens when Earth casts a complete shadow, also known as an umbra, over the moon. The shadow of Earth is categorized into 2 parts: the umbra, which is the innermost part of the shadow, from which direct light from the sun is blocked, and the penumbra, which is the outermost part of the shadow, where the light is partially blocked. When the moon is within the umbra, it will turn red, which is why lunar eclipses are sometimes known as blood moons. Another feature of a total lunar eclipse is the moon's red color during totality, which happens because of the refraction, filtering, and scattering of light by the atmosphere of Earth. This is also known as Rayleigh scattering, named after the 19th century British physicist Lord Rayleigh. As the November full moon is also known as the Beaver moon, the upcoming eclipse is called a Beaver blood moon. Don't you dare go anywhere. We've got much more interesting stuff coming coming right up. Next, astronomers have discovered a black hole closest to Earth. Scientists have identified a potential source of a special kind of meteorite, and NASA is preparing to say farewell to history-making Mars InSight lander. Kind of reminds us of WALL-E. Stay tuned to get all the details. Now, let's get to it. First up, astronomers have discovered a black hole closest to Earth. Astronomers have discovered the first formant stellar mass black hole in our cosmic backyard with the help of the Gemini North Telescope in Hawaii. This is the first unambiguous detection of a dormant stellar mass black hole in our Milky Way. It's located only 1,600 light years away, and its close proximity to Earth offers a fascinating target of study that will help advance our understanding of the evolution of binary systems. Black holes are the most extreme objects in the universe, and it's believed that supermassive versions of these unimaginably dense objects are at the center of all large galaxies. Stellar mass black holes, which weigh about 5 to 100 times the mass of our Sun, are much more common, and there are an estimated 100 million stellar mass black holes in the Milky Way alone. The problem is only a handful of them have actually been confirmed, and almost half of them are active. This means that they shine bright in X-rays as they consume material from a nearby stellar companion. Black holes don't feed, which means they simply blend in with their surroundings. The newly discovered black hole is a dormant one and has been dubbed Gaia BH1. It's about 10 times more massive than our Sun, located in the constellation Ophiuchus. Next, scientists have identified a potential source of a special kind of meteorite. When the Chelyabinsk fireball exploded over Russia back in 2013, it left a rather unusual sort of meteorite on Earth. What made the Chelyabinsk meteorites different from others was the presence of dark veins, which had been caused by a process that's known as shock darkening. But until recently, planetary scientists weren't able to identify a nearby asteroid source of these particular meteorites. But now, researchers from the University of Arizona have identified an asteroid known as 1998 0R2, which could be a probable source of shock-darkened meteorites, a finding that they published in a recent issue of the Planetary Science Journal. In April of 2020, the 1.5 mile wide asteroid passed by Earth in close proximity. Meteorites are asteroid fragments that break off into space and crash down onto Earth. Shock darkening happens when something impacts a planetary body hard enough that the temperature partially or fully melts those rocks and alter their appearance both to the human eye and in observable date. While this process has been seen in meteorites many times, it has only been seen on asteroids in 1 or 2 cases, and both were way out in the main asteroid belt, which can be found between Mars and Jupiter. And last but not least, NASA is preparing to say farewell to the history-making Mars InSight lander. The end is in sight for NASA's InSight, which is short for Interior Exploration using Seismic Investigations, Geodesy, and Heat Transport. It won't be long now when the spacecraft will fall silent, at which point its history-making mission to reveal the secrets of Mars' interior will come to an end. The engineering team has already taken steps to continue its adventure for as long as possible, but the spacecraft's power generation continues to decline, with wind-blown dust that has gotten stuck on its solar panels getting thicker and thicker. So despite these efforts, it won't be long before the expected end will finally come. The most important of the final steps of the mission is sorting its assortment of data and making it accessible to researchers all over Earth. InSight's data has already yielded important details about Mars's interior layers, its liquid core, the surprising variable remnants beneath the surface of its mostly extinct magnetic field, the weather on this part of Mars, and lots of Marsquake activities. And many more insights are sure to follow, as scientists will continue to sift through the data that has been provided by InSight. It was even able to record some quakes from meteor impacts. But soon, InSight will lose its power and become part of the other spacecraft that have found their last resting place on the Red Planet. That's all we've got for now. Would you want to celebrate Halloween if you were to go up in space? What would you dress up like? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.